Alrighty folks, good afternoon once more. We're talking about decimals and percents today, how to convert between decimals and percents and decimals. And I'm going to urge you right now to pause the video, take some notes, write this down because it's going to be kind of hard to follow along with me while I'm explaining it. So you may want to take that pause now. Okay, unpause. Let's go. Talking about decimals and percents, the hint of the day for this particular skill is to move decimals. Now, that may be a nice easy hint, but I know a lot of people think, well, why does that work? So I'm going to try to quickly explain why that works. I don't want to get too deep into it, but for the folks who have that burning desire to know why or what the math is behind that, we'll show you. Okay, so we have some examples here, and I tried to divide them between our decimal examples and our percent examples. And I'll pull out a marker here and I'll show some answers in green. So hello green marker. And let's take a look at our first example. We have 0 and 67 hundredths. The note here says to move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to move the decimal once, twice, 3 times a lady. Anybody? It was a cool song back when your kids were young. Anyway, 67 hundredths is going to turn into 67%. Okay, by moving the decimal 2 places to the right and putting that percent sign on there, don't forget the percent sign, you're going to get a correct answer. When it comes to something like 0 and 4/10, that's a little different because I'm going to move my decimal 2 places, but I end up having a gap right here. And by having a gap, I need to fill it with a number. What's the number for nothingness? What's the number that symbolizes nothing? Well, that would be 0. So let's fill it in with a 0. So I'm going to put a 0 here, and this is going to be 40%. I have 1 and 15 hundredths. Now this is weird because instead of having a 0 here, I have a 1 here. So that's kind of telling me that this is going to be kind of a special percentage. So I'm going to move my decimal 2 places to the right, 1, 2, and I end up having 115%. Now, in not many instances will you actually have 115%, but it'd be nice to have 115% of a pizza or have 115% of ice cream sundae, but that doesn't happen very often, so we won't get our hopes up. Talking about 0 and 667 thousandths, again, the same rule is going to apply. We're going to move the decimal 2 places to the right. So once, twice, again, 3 times a lady. Look it up, it's a good song. We have 66.7%. So it's kind of weird that we have a 0.7 in our percentage, but it's perfectly acceptable to have that. As a matter of fact, this has a fractional equivalent that we'll talk about in a future video. So why does this work? I use the example right here of 115% to see why this works. We have 1 and 15 hundredths times 100%. Basically, we are converting between forms where we're not changing the value. So by multiplying by 100%, and I want to get that in there so you see it, 100%, I am changing it to 115%. And it says here, don't forget the percent sign, so I'm not going to. I'm going to put it in there. Even though it's green, we won't judge. So the answer for this is going to be 115% because I'm multiplying by 100%. Now, if the decimal is being moved to the right 2 places here, and we're dealing with decimals to percents, if I go the opposite way, it should work in opposition as well. So that's what's going to happen. We're going to move from percents to decimals, and we're going to go the opposite direction. So for here, it's going to turn into 98 hundredths. Why? Because we're going to start here, because this is a whole number percentage, and we're going to move the decimal 1, 2 places to the left. And that's where my decimal is going to sit. And I'll drop off the percent sign, and I'll have my answer. Same thing for 6%, but it's a little bit different. My decimal's here, but I've got to move 1, 2 times, and there's my decimal. But I've got that empty space again, and I have to fill it with a number. I have to fill it with something that has no value, though. And 0 is that number again. So I'm going to fill it in with that. It's going to look like this, 6 hundredths, which is going to give me a great opportunity to turn into a fraction as well. The way you say it is the way you write it. Very good. 98 hundredths, 6 hundredths. Here is a little bit of a weird example. It's 52.5%. Kind of reminds me of this one. But I'm still going to follow the same rule. Nothing changes. I haven't changed anything here. I've done the same thing for these, the same thing for these. And my decimal's here. My percent's going to drop off, and I'm going to have 525 thousandths. That's kind of a weird value, but it's still within the realm of understanding. We can still understand that. And I use that as my example here. I know that's a little low. If you can't see it, I apologize. Let me come take a look, see if it is kind of low. It's not bad. You might need to zoom in or make your video a little larger. That's okay. If we have 52.5%, and I left off my percent there, but if we divide by 100%, it's going to give us 525 thousandths. And that's something that you can verify in a calculator. And I urge you to try that if it's really, really stressing you out. It does work. I'm not making anything up yet. I'll make it up around mid-year. I'm only kidding, relax. So we have a lot of busy notes here. Please take a moment to jot these down. Write down what's not clear to you. Write down things that you don't understand. Let me and let your classmates help you understand what you're seeing here. Have a great day.